Hey, my name is Sai, and I did my paper on the Bhagavad Gita, which is, people say it's an ancient Hindu text, but I would say that it's a philosophical text that anyone can read and get ideas from. So, for a little background, the Bhagavad Gita is part of the Mahabharatam, and there's a lot to the story, but the main part is that there's two branches of a family, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, and the Pandavas represent the best of humanity, while the Kauravas represent the worst. And now the Pandavas have to reclaim the throne in Hastinapur, and they're fighting the war. So basically, Arjuna is conflicted because he has to kill his family, his kin, his gurus on the other side of the warfield, and he's asking Krishna, why should I do this? Isn't it sinful? And Krishna uses different rhetorical strategies to not force him to fight the war, but change his entire mindset. And a lot of these ideologies that Krishna presents can be applied to practically anything else in life. So, dramatism is basically when you look at life as a play and you change up different aspects of it, like the agent, the act, the scene, the agency, or the purpose, in order to reimagine someone's role. And Krishna uses this because at first, Arjuna thinks that he has to be a killing machine, but that's not really exactly what it is. Yeah, he has to kill people, but his role is to be a soldier and to fight the war to fulfill his dharma, which means your duty. And then the second thing is purpose. To Arjuna, his first question was, is it really worth it fighting this war to win and get the throne? But that's not the real purpose. The real purpose is, as Krishna frames it, a larger cosmic duty. Arjuna has to fight this war to fulfill his dharma, and fulfilling his dharma will lead to basically the entire world getting better. So it's part of his duty to fight it. And by framing it in this way, he completely changes Arjuna's mindset, because in that way, if he doesn't fight the war and he doesn't do his duty, he's basically being selfish and not fulfilling the cosmic duty for him. So deterministic screens is basically language, how you convey it, and how it's told can completely change how someone views the world. And Krishna uses this a lot in his writing, or I guess in his telling. So the first thing is success. So he says over and over again that you have a right to act, but not to the fruits of your actions. But what does that mean? So Arjuna tells Krishna that he's afraid. What if he's doing the wrong thing as a soldier? And what if the outcome isn't the right thing? And Krishna tells him that the only thing that he's in control of is his action. And his action, or his dharma, is to be a soldier and fight the war. What happens after that is completely out of his hands. Another example that I have is, let's say you're a quarterback and you're throwing or handing off for the Super Bowl. Your control is only while the ball is in your hands. Once you throw it, it's up to the wide receiver or the running back if they or the tight end if they catch it in the end zone. But your job is to be a leader and throw the ball properly. So if you can do that, you're successful. What happens after that? It's out of your hands. Another thing that Krishna redefines is personal duty. So in today's world, a lot of people are completely influenced, or they're guided in a path based on what's going to be successful and what's reasonable. But Krishna says that this isn't the way to live. So basically, you can think of dharma as doing what you love. The example I have here is, there's a boy who has a passion for art, and he's told over and over again that art isn't something realistic and he should have something realistic. So he ends up becoming a doctor, and he's making $1 million a year, and it sounds great, but somewhere inside he has a regret that he never got to fulfill his passion and become an artist. In the second universe, this boy is encouraged and he becomes an artist. He's a much smaller artist, definitely not earning $1 million a year, but every weekend he gets to help out, teach free classes to kids. In this universe, he's super happy, he's content, he's not earning as much, but he's still giving back to his community. But in the end, he's fulfilling his dharma and doing what he loves. Basically, the idea here is Krishna challenges meritocracy, basically success based on outcomes, but that's not really the case. Success should be based on your self-worth and self-fulfillment. So symbolic action is when words are not only persuasive, but they carry meaning and ideas. So Krishna uses the mind as a metaphor. He says the mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Why? Because Arjuna is coming to Krishna out of fear and doubt because he doesn't know if what he's doing is right or wrong. He can't get his mind in his control and it's all over the place. So what Arjuna is saying is that you are a warrior on the battlefield, but the biggest battle you're facing right now is in your mind because once you conquer that, you're basically limitless. You can do anything. Another thing that Krishna uses is the paradox. So he says that those who see action in inaction and inaction in action are truly wise. So it really makes you think deep, like, what does that mean? He just kind of said the same thing but flipped it. But what he's saying is, let's say there's a person that is doing everything, literally, like, he's in every single club, every single, he plays every single instrument, everything. And there's another person that just plays the piano, just goes to the gym, that's it. They keep themselves. These two people from the outside, obviously the person that's doing everything is gonna seem like, dang, that guy is like, he's pretty cool. He does everything. But other person, no one's gonna really notice them because, well, they only do two things. But the thing is, it's not about what you're doing. It's more so how that's impacting you and your attitude towards it. The person who's doing everything, there's a higher likelihood that they probably don't have that much depth. They're kind of just doing everything just to have it there. I mean, maybe they're doing it, that's cool, but like more than likely not. The other person who is just going to the gym and playing the piano, they could be going through some type of transformation in their life and really improving their life. And if that's the case, that person is definitely the winner in these two. But to the outside, you can't see that. So it's really about your inner your inner attitude towards it. Like, are you getting better every day? Are you improving basically? So finally, we have ideological criticism. So Krishna has so many different themes and ideologies in the Bhagavad Gita, and if you skim over it, you'll never get to see them all and get to gain the insight from them. So for the first one, there's outcome versus intention. Basically, today, a lot of the things that we do is in hopes for some type of result. We study all year to do good in the final and get a good grade in the class. We go to work to gain money and spend that money on different type of things. But what Krishna says is that you should detach yourself from those results and just focus on the task at hand and do your very best at that. And the reason for that is because let's say you do study the whole year and you do take the test and for some reason something goes wrong and you don't do good in the test. Now you're going to be sad because you failed. But if you're content in your work ethic and how much work you put into that task, then you're already successful and you already know your self-worth pretty much. But if you attach your self-worth to those outcomes, you're going to get disappointed a lot more than often. Another thing is that when you focus on the task and forget about the results, you tend to do a lot better. There's a thing called flow state, and that flow state is part of it is a loss of self-consciousness. And basically, when you think about an outcome, so desire leads to anxiety, and anxiety leads to stress and you doing worse at your task. When you let go of that, you can do way better. And that's one of the biggest things that Krishna says. Detach from your results. Second is meritocracy versus dharma. So this is what we had talked about earlier. There's a lot of paths and guides that try to funnel everyone down the same path. But Krishna says do what you love. Or, well, he says to do your dharma, but I like to think of it as do what you love and do what you feel like is right. Because if you follow someone else and follow other people, then you're never going to be content. You're never going to be fulfilled. For now, you might, and when you first achieve that, you might get the praise from other people. But eventually, it all comes down to how you feel about yourself and your self-worth. Next is desire and ambition. So again, like, desire is something that sounds good and it does work for some people, but for the majority of people, that desire makes you worse at your job. If you just focus on what's at hand and forget about what happens after, then you're not going to be stressing, oh, am I going to do good on this test? Am I going to do bad? No, I'm just going to answer my question, go to the next one, do my best, and then whatever happens is out of my hands. And then on the right here, I just have a couple of different things that when you think about it outcome driven, and then when you think of it duty driven. So you have grades, but instead you think mastery of craft. And you have your outcome driven, you have a comparison. Duty driven is like self knowledge, and you get to know about yourself and be fulfilled. And there's so many different examples that are outcome driven and duty driven. So what Krishna says is that you should always try to be duty driven, and that will lead you to your best outcome. Or even if it doesn't, you'll still be happy. I had never looked at the impact of the use of rhetoric in the Bhagavad Gita until doing this paper, and I realized how much of an impact it has. Let's say Krishna just told Arjuna, yeah, you have to go fight the war, and kind of just left it at that, and didn't use words to shape how Arjuna thought, then we wouldn't have gotten all these lessons, all these different, I guess, ideologies from Krishna. Instead, it would have just been a bare text, bare story. But his use of rhetoric, his use of dramatism, deterministic screens, symbolic action, and ideological critique is what creates all these different ideas and allows us to learn from him. So I think his use of rhetoric is what makes the Bhagavad Gita such a great philosophical text. And that's it. Thank you.